they have to make stock price go up. And the only way to make stock price go up is to build and sell more houses. So you have to buy land, build more houses. That's plan A. Now, plan B that they have, if plan A didn't work out, is to buy more land and build more houses. And then, of course, there's plan C if plan B didn't work, which is buy more land and build more houses.
If you're within 3 feet of me, we're probably talking about real estate, much to my family's chagrin. But here's the thing. Most people see 7% rates and freeze. I see opportunity. They're waiting for the perfect deal, and well, I've analyzed thousands of them, and perfect just doesn't exist. So I talk to operators across every asset class, flippers, multifamily syndicators, note investors, and whatever else is working. No sales pitches allowed, just real lessons from people actually doing it. I'm Ed Matthews, and this is Real Estate Underground. Greetings and salutations, Real Estate Undergrounders. It is Ed Matthews again with the Real Estate Underground. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. You know, one of the things that I'm grateful for is all of the comments and emails I get. And like I said, I'm a cheap date. You can email me or call my office, and I will spend 15 minutes or at least a cup of coffee with pretty much anybody who's willing to chew the fat on real estate stuff. I am the geek's geek of real estate. So keep that stuff coming. I'm really enjoying meeting y'all. And with that, I have an old friend who's rejoining us, Brandon Cobb. Brandon and I met, oh my gosh, 3.5, 4 years ago, maybe. And he was a tremendously successful real estate investor based down in Tennessee. Like the rest of us, the world has changed a couple different times since over those 3 or 4 years. And so Brandon was kind enough to say yes and come back on the show and catch us up with what he's working on, because it's really interesting. And also just to catch up on his view of the market, because he's seen a lot and done a lot. So Brandon, it's good to see you, my friend, and welcome back to the show.
Yeah, it's great to be back. It's good to see you too. And it's been a crazy few years, man. There's a lot that happened and probably a lot to talk about.
And as luck would have it, you and I both have microphones and the recording has been pushed. So here we go. So Brandon, for those folks that don't know about you or HPG Capital or all the other stuff you're doing now, why don't you give us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So we invent new housing neighborhoods. That's it in a sentence. We take farmland and we get it approved for new housing communities. And when we sell it off to these big national home builders like Lennar, DR Horton, those kind of guys. So a lot of people might know that there's like 3 steps to development. The first is taking a piece of land and getting it approved to do the construction of the community. And so we'll do a lot of land entitlement flips where we pre-sell all the land, get it approved, and once it's approved, we already have the buyer lined up and we sell it. So that's the first phase. The second phase is the actual development portion. So we're not building houses yet. We go in, we grade the land out, we put the roads in, we put the sewer, the water, the infrastructure, basically create a neighborhood with no homes in it. And then we sell the individual ready to build lots to the builders. So that's like phase 2 of development. And then there's phase 3 where you actually build the homes. And so, like we do that as well. So we focus on all 3 phases. We really like development because there's multiple value add strategies. We have 3 different exit strategies, multiple ways to force appreciate and control the value of the property. So that's what we do in a nutshell. We focus on the entry level housing market. So we really believe in affordable housing, little a affordable, not big A. Big A is Section 8 government housing. Not doing that. We're focused on that like $2,000 per month mortgage, because you've got 33% of the home buying population, millennials like myself, that want to buy a home, but less than 10% of these homes being built or affordable. So you got like 33% of the population changing 10% of the homes being built. Obviously, I don't have to be an economic genius to see the supply and demand imbalance there. So that's what we do here at HPG. Most of the stuff we do is here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Awesome. Yeah, it's something that's near and dear to my heart as well. I have, my kids are, well, my oldest is we just released her into the wild. She just graduated from college. So, pretty soon her and I assume her boyfriend will be, looking for a place to live as they move on with their lives. And, so I live in Connecticut, and, the honest truth about this market is, I live in a middle class, maybe upper middle class town, but nothing nothing, it's not a fancy town by any stretch. It's a nice town. And, excellent school system. And the median home here in town is about $450,000. I mean, that's out of reach for almost, a major portion of the population. And I'm not talking McMansions, right? I'm talking, 2,000, 2,200 square foot, homes, people where you grow a family and live your lives. And, it may not be your first home, but it's probably your second home, right? And so that first and second home band here is completely unaffordable here in the Northeast. So that's definitely something that I've been paying attention to as well. So I'm curious, you talk about the 3 stages of development. And so where are you spending most of your time?
Land entitlement and land development right now. So not building the homes. And the reason is we finished off the last bit of homes that we're building in 2024. The market's been really crappy, right? If you've been in real estate, you probably have noticed this. A lot of people have been hurt in multifamily. Single family residential hasn't been super hot either. So we haven't been building the homes, but like these big nationals that we work with, the reason I love working with them is because they're publicly traded companies, right? They have to make stock price go up. And the only way to make stock price go up is to build and sell more houses. So you have to buy land, build more houses. That's plan A. Now, plan B that they have, if plan A didn't work out, is to buy more land and build more houses. And then, of course, there's plan C if plan B didn't work, which is buy more land and build more houses. So they've continued to buy during the last couple of years where the market's been kind of crazy, which is why our land deals have continued to do really, really well. But right now, we're primarily focused on the land entitlement and land development side. No new construction till the market improves.
Yeah. So first off, I admire the discipline because, HPG Capital is not publicly traded. So you don't have the pressures of that. You can actually do the right thing for your company and your investors. And so, when we talk about, straight entitlement, right? And you alluded to it earlier. I'm thinking roads, pushing utilities, stormwater management, septic management, either septic systems or, which is what is in my part of the world, and sewer systems sounds like it's in the areas that you serve. And so, when you're acquiring a property and you're, doing, well, actually, I'm going to have you explain it instead of me. So walk us through the process. When you see a raw piece of land, a farmer who's looking to retire to Florida and go hit golf balls, right? What is your process?
So the entitlement process is a long process, but I'm going to give you just the very get-go. And it's very simple. It might be long, but it's very simple, right? The entitlements do take 15 months here in this market to do. But again, you're talking about large paydays, which is why we like to do them. Like, where I'm not trying to do a gajillion deals. Like, I just want to do, 2 or 3 deals a year, have some 7-figure paydays and not have to worry about it. But when we get a piece of land under contract, we get what's called a concept plan done. You go to your civil engineer, they can make you a concept plan. This is just a 2D sketch of the community. So civil engineer tells you how many homes you can fit on it and what it looks like. It's a picture of what is to be. You take that concept plan to the city. If you're in a major metropolis area, you're probably going to talk to the council person that's over the district. So major metropolises are broken down into districts. So if I'm going to downtown Nashville, it's broken up into districts. I'm going to talk to the council person. If it's a suburb that's outside the city, you're going to go talk to the planning director. That's the liaison between the council that votes and approves new communities and the developers. So they're the middleman that gives you feedback. If I go to the city and I'm talking with the council person or I'm talking to the planning director and I show them the concept plan and I say, hey, I'd really like to do this here. Are you excited about this? And if they look at it and go, we're excited about it. Like, we want to do this. I take that concept plan to my list of buyers. In this case, we work with national home builders. And if those national home builders are like, yeah, if you get this approved, I'll buy it. Here's a contract. Here's a deposit. Then we start the approval process. So that's it in a nutshell. It's very, very simplified. That's all there is. And we do all this during our due diligence period. So we don't have any money at risk or anything like that. We want to buy, we want to get city alignment. We don't want to spend a ton of money on the project. And we want to line up our buyer during that DD period And if we get that done, then that's our permission to take it through. If you just do that, you'll de-risk a lot of this.
100%. Yeah. I mean, if you can figure out the inputs and outputs of a deal before you have to throw down major dollars, that usually works out pretty well for everybody involved. Okay. And so town says yes, developer says yes, right? Lennar, Pulte, whoever you're dealing with. What's next for you?
Next and biggest step is going to be to get a preliminary plat approval, also called a tentative map approval. This is where they take your concept plan and they say, yes, we want this. It is approved, contingent on seeing the civil drawings. So just like you might have an individual lot that you can build a home on, the city is not going to give you a building permit to build that house until they see the architectural plans, because the architectural plans tell the code department, is the window big enough to get a firefighter in there, right? Is the house too close to the power lines? Where is the house on the lot? So you've got to show the architectural plans to the city to get a building permit. That's when you can actually start construction. You have to show the city the civil drawings in order to get a grading permit. The civil drawings are where the road's going to go. How deep is the water? How deep is the sewer? So you got to make sure it's a safe community. Think of land entitlement like this. The city has these different departments. You've got stormwater, you've got public works, you've got zoning, you've got the fire department. Their job is not just to service the community that's existing, it's to approve and make sure that each new community is safe. So when you submit those civil drawings, when you're going through the entitlement process, which is the approval process, you have to get each department to sign off on it. So the fire department is going to look at the civil drawings and go, okay, do we have a fire hydrant every 100 feet or whatever, so that there's plenty of fire hydrants to get to the house? Are the homes too close to the power lines? The public works department is going to be like, do we have a curb going through? What's the slope of the roads, right? Slope of the roads can't be over 8%, right? They want to see that. You can't just have a road going like straight up. Each department is designed to make sure that the community is safe. And so that's what we're doing. After you've got that preliminary plat approval, that's when you're going to start spending some money on it, which is the civil draw. That's the expensive part. And so that's when you can go to investors and say, hey, look, I've got an approved project. I've got an end buyer in mind, or under contract, preferably with a deposit. I need the money to finance the civil drawings to take this through. And so that's how we de-risk it. So that's that second step. And to get to that preliminary plat approval, you're probably, depending on how big the development is, right? This is going to be more expensive if you have a 1,000-acre development. But, for a modest development, maybe you're doing 50 homes, you might need $15,000, maybe $20,000 at most to get to that preliminary plat approval. You might need to get a traffic study. You're probably going to need to get a geotech report to make sure the soils are good, an endangered species report, make sure there's no bald eagles in the trees that you're going to cut down and get a felony, and you're going to need to get a phase 1 environmental report. This is where you're testing the land, make sure there's no nuclear toxic sludge that's been dumped and growing Godzillas out of lizards, stuff like that. That's most of your due diligence period, or those studies right there to get to your preliminary plat approval. But once you get that preliminary plat, like, you're in business, right? You just need the civil drawings in the city to stamp them, and then you're good to go at that point. You'll get your civil drawings stamped. That's kind of the third step there. The city they've approved it at that point. The plans then go up to the state, and the state's going to look at it, and they're really concerned about one thing here in Tennessee, which is they'll give you your SWIP permit. That's SWPP. Storm Water Prevention Plan. They just want to see that you've got a plan to make sure that the water's mitigated. And once you get your SWIP permit from the state, you are good to go and really start moving dirt at that point.
Okay. And so do you ever stop at that point and not move dirt? Or is it always for you? Is it always, you're clearing lots and running the roads?
So like I said, you got multiple exit strategies. Phase 1, land entitlement. We just get land approved and sell it. So I can sell the paper, never stick a shovel in the ground, never deal with a contractor or construction. I just get the paper approved and I sell it. And all the times I've already got my buyer lined up for that. So we do that, and we also do it where it's approved and we are moving dirt and creating ready to build lots for the builders.
Gotcha. And so what are the considerations, as you're going through the process? What are some of the examples of, okay, we're going to get off at this juncture of the project? Like, how do you decide?
It just depends on how much we can get for the finished ready to build pads, what we can get for the entitled dirt, how much money and capital we have available, what kind of terms we're getting from the builders, how much of a deposit are they putting down. So there's a myriad of different, what's our capacity with our construction crews if we are doing the development. So it's not a set in stone formula. We take a lot of things into consideration.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, there is some complexity here, which is why not everybody does it. So in terms of the process going forward, right? So you are bringing in crews to push the road, to do the road, and to handle stormwater management. Are those contractors, or are you vertically integrated? Do you have some of those people on staff? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, so we used to be vertical integrated, and that worked up to doing, $22 million a year in development. Then it broke because the big vertical integration piece that was tough to grow and scale for us, because great thing about vertical integration is you got it all in-house, but when it comes time to scale, you're growing multiple companies at the same time.
Correct.
And you realize what your superpower is and what your superpower is not. And what our superpower was not was being general contractors. So we had our own general contracting company, and we realized it was just a big headache to grow that business with the other businesses, our land acquisition business and the capital raising business. And so now we outsource all of that to third-party construction companies. Our construction company still oversees them. And we've got the experience. We know how to do it. That's what makes us really effective at managing these things. Cause we know what it's like, cause we've done that. So we outsource that and just focus on what our superpowers is, which is just finding the land and being the money piece.
Okay. So let's talk about that then. I'm curious, how are you sourcing these deals? Is this through brokers, your own marketing efforts? What are you doing?
Yeah. So all the above. Most of what we do is we have a very targeted list. So we don't do any spray and pray. We have a very targeted list, and we hand build our lists, or, there's some software systems you can use to give you a list, but you kind of got to double check it and make sure that it's quality and get rid of the stuff that's doo-doo in it. And then we just reach out to them. We'll just pick up the phone. Our team will call them, or we might go door knock their actual house. That's primarily what we do. But a lot of business is generated from relationships. When you go and you sit down with the planning director and you get to know the elected officials in the area, and you're kind of asking, hey, who's doing the zoo? Who should I talk to? They know who's got land and who might be a good fit. We talk to the local brokers in the area.
Yeah.
We've done land deals with local brokers that have introduced us to people. Building a relationship. So all your old sellers that sold you land, they usually don't just own one piece of land. They own multiple. So, we use those existing relationships as well. And then, I post every day on social media. Everybody knows we do land development. So they see my posts and they will send us deals because they know we're in the space. So it's not just one source that gets everything. It's multiple lead gen sources.
Of course. Yeah. Smart. And then, from a targeting perspective, you mentioned that there are multiple sources, but it sounds like you've got that pretty well wired. What's your buy box look like?
So the number one thing that we're looking for is, are our buyers building there, AKA national home builders? And by the way, it doesn't matter what type of real estate you're in. It's the same approval process to get a piece of land approved to build a piece of real estate on it. So I don't care if you're doing single-family residential neighborhoods like us, or multifamily, or self-storage. It's the same process. We reverse engineer what our buyers want. So go ChatGPT top 10 national home builders and just go type their name into Google. Lennar, Nashville Communities. Ryan Homes, Nashville Communities. DR Horton, Nashville Communities. Click the link. A map will pop up. It shows you all the neighborhoods with the addresses in the area. And so we go to those areas, and what we're looking for is sewer access. So you can figure out sewer access in a number of ways. One way is you can just email your local utilities department, but you got to find a certain area. They won't just give you the full map of the whole city for terrorist purposes. Yeah, they don't want the terrorists knowing like where the sewer and water is to the whole city. But that you give them an address, they'll show you where the surrounding sewers are in that area.
Yeah.
So we're looking for the big puzzle pieces next to the really tiny puzzle pieces. What the heck does that mean? Every county and city has a GIS parcel viewer or GIS mapping, and it shows all the land parcels and how they connect together. So it's like a giant puzzle, and all the land pieces are the puzzle pieces that just fit together. And you'll notice when you have a development, it's a bunch of really tiny puzzle pieces, the small lots that the homes are sitting on. And when you have a giant undeveloped piece next to it or around it or down the road, you've got an opportunity because that development tells us there's sewer access nearby. Sewer means you can get density.
Yeah.
When you have all the homes connected into a sewer system to get rid of the waste, you can put more homes on the land. If you don't, you're going to have to do a septic system or a step system, and that may work as long as the builders are building homes with septic systems. You're in business. If they're not, sorry, they probably don't want the piece of land because they want sewer. And with a septic system, your lots are going to be a lot bigger because the waste has to go through the septic system. It has to be spread out among the lots. So you're not going to get as much density from land like that. So that's the main thing we're looking for. Are our buyers building in the area? What are the big puzzle pieces among all the small puzzle pieces?
Yeah. So buildable lot here in Connecticut on average is anywhere from 1.5, usually about 2 acres plus. I'm curious about the size of the lots down in your part of the world.
Smallest 4,000 square feet, 8,000 square feet for your entry level type housing product, right?
Nice.
You know, the more density, you know, the more affordable you can make the homes. So that's probably for the type of niche that we're going after. That's the size of lots that you needed. But average lot size in Tennessee is probably bigger than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Tennessee, so there, you know, there's at least a section of your state where that's farm country, and that's a whole thing. So, getting back to your buy box, so are you looking for a particular minimum size lot, farm, or are you, you know, what's the minimum number of houses that it makes sense to explore getting into a due diligence process?
50, because that's what our buyers want. Now, you can do smaller than that, a regional or local builder. Maybe they buy, 20, 30 lots, or maybe you do 50 and you can slice it up and sell to 10 different builders if you want, right?
Sure.
So what does that look like? The most density you're probably going to get here is like a 20-foot wide townhome product that's 45 feet long.
Nice.
So you know that we can get at most 12 to 15 units an acre. So if we have 5 acres, we're in business if we can get it zoned or if it's already zoned for townhome units. If it's not, you're probably at 3.5 units per acre, and that's going to be your single-family detached residential home. So in that case, you're going to need 15 acres to be able to get roughly 50 houses there. The reason 50 is important for our buyers, like they got to justify putting a team there and the project selling for at least, a year and a half, something like that. So they got to have the volume to be able to justify it.
Yeah, it's got to be worth finding their car keys to hop in the car and go check it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you mentioned investors earlier. What's the capital stack look like?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
A motivated seller just filled out your web form. If you call back within 5 minutes, you're nearly 4 times more likely to get that seller appointment. But delay your follow-up by even just 10 minutes? Forget it. You're toast. Ella Vista Connect calls that lead back in 60 seconds, qualifies them, and schedules your meeting. Find out how much slow follow-up is costing you. Free calculator at ellavista.com/underground.
Yeah, so if we're doing a land entitlement deal, we put it under contract. So we control the land through a contract, give us plenty of time that we need. We only close on it if we get the approvals. So that's very important. That's one of the biggest mistakes that
Huge.
I made, which is buying land, thinking we can get the approval and then not getting it, and then, being stuck with a piece of land that you can't develop. So don't make that mistake. That's rule number one. Don't buy any land until you can get all the approvals. The only exception to that is obviously if you can buy it for its current value, have it completely fail and turn around and just resell it and get your money back, do that deal, right? Asymmetric returns. So for that type of deal, we bring investors in after the preliminary plat or tentative map approval, right? Like we got to get that approval first, because if we're using their money for stuff and it falls and doesn't get approved, well, shoot, you lost some money. And it typically doesn't cost us a lot of money anyway to get to that tentative map approval. So we use all of our own money for the tentative map. Once we introduce investors, we typically aim for an 18% preferred return. That's what we've done in the past. So, we shoot to give them an 18% preferred return on their money. Typical turnaround time, these contracts are 18 months and less. So most of the time it's like a 15-month turnaround. So that's what we shoot for. And it's all their money, right? Like there's no debt introduced on the deal, nothing like that. So, and it's just the investor's capital. If we are doing a land development project, so typically we will buy the land outright with investor capital. So we own it outright with our investors, 100% equity, and we have created a lot of value at the same time. So when we take it from farm to 50, 100 home community, it's worth a lot more money. And that's how we protect a lot of the investors' equity and their downside, through the forced appreciation process. We then use that equity to go secure debt financing against the project. And we help protect that investment by getting a very large deposit from the national home builder. They'll go up to 20% deposit released to us.
Really?
Free
So it goes
money.
hard. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, and we get to use it for the development, which is the beautiful thing, because it's free money. There's no interest on it, nothing. So if we're doing a $10 million development, I can get up to a $1 to $2 million deposit from the builder. That significantly affects the amount of money I need to go to the private lender, the banks, to be able to get capital to do the project. So, investors' equity, there's some significant protection there. A lot of times these loans that we're going out and getting, they're like, 50% loan to value when you account for the builder's deposit.
Yeah. And what kind of loans are those? Are you talking commercial paper, or are you dealing with local and regional banks and it's more of a construction loan type?
We've done everything. So it's across the board. It's whoever is going to give us the best deal. I'm more concerned about getting the terms we need than I am about the rate. And I'll tell you why. Back in 2022, when the market changed, and everything's great until the market changes, but you realize, things happen. Banks can get bought out, presidents can change hands, and the notes can call due. So some of the biggest risks when you're borrowing money is getting the note called due on you. That is what you don't want. And so we mitigate that risk by, if it's a 1.5 year project, I'm getting a 3-year term on that loan. I want double the amount of time I need, and I want to build in the ability to purchase extensions. I do not want that bank or whoever being able to call the note due on me. So that's a huge risk, and how to mitigate that. And so you can do it by getting the terms that you want with the banks, but if they're not able to do that, there's private lenders that will do asset-based lending that will give you those terms. They'll it's going to be a higher price. We don't do personal guarantees, right? So we do all do non-recourse lending. It's just a matter of time before something in the economy happens and your deal goes south, and you have to file personal bankruptcy. So something happens, so we don't do that. We learned that again back in 2022. You can have the best deal in the world, have high integrity, stuff's going to go wrong, and at the end of the day, you need to be able to protect your personal assets. So that's what we look for when we're going out, and that's good for the investor's capital, because if we are able to get the terms we need, if we do have a COVID event or a black swan interest rate rise, there's been a lot of crazy stuff in the last 5 years. That way, we have the ability to not get the note called due on us, or buy us some extra time if the development is sitting for some reason.
Smart.
And again, having these large deposits from your buyer, these are huge deposits. This is a lot of money. It makes them have skin in the game, and they're less likely to back out.
Right. Especially when they go hard day one, which is, I didn't even know that was a thing. at that level, at least. So that's pretty cool. All right. Well, hey, Brandon, I could talk about this stuff for days, man. But let's get on with the lightning round, the final five, and let's get a little more inside your head, if you'll indulge me.
Let's do it, man. I'm ready.
All right. So, I mean, you've been, I like I said, I mean, I've known you for years, and I know how successful you are. And, you've gotten to a point where bills are paid, college tuition, kids are good, wife's good, everybody's good. And nevertheless, you wake up on Monday morning like a shot, and you go to the office and you keep working, right? So that tells me that there's purpose here. And so I'm curious about your purpose. What gets you out of bed on Monday morning?
To me, business is a tool to build the life you want. And for me, my passion is creating unforgettable experiences with those that I love and I'm close to. So it's all about lifestyle design. Every single year, I do an annual sibling trip with my brother and sister. I've been doing it for almost 15 years at this point. We go somewhere on their bucket list. Like, we just got back from Yosemite. I got to hike Half Dome this past fall. Like, that was so flipping cool. We even got caught at night, so the moon was like shining on Half Dome. So we typically will go to some national park and do some crazy hikes, right? I do an annual mother-son trip. My mom was a history teacher for 30 years. She had never been to any of the places that she had taught about, most of them. So every year I take her to like we went to San Antonio and did the Alamo. We're doing the Freedom Trail in Boston this year. I took her to St. Augustine and so like all these historic places we go every year. And it's just fun when you are doing something that's not just a trip for a trip, but it's tied in some way, shape, or form, to the person that you care about. I do an annual father-son trip. Like, my dad loves two things, crypto and bourbon. So like, we did a crypto conference in Miami last year. The year before that, we did the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. So to me, your business is something that is a tool to help you design the life you want, which is so funny because so few people spend time actually designing the life and figuring out what they want it to look like. To me, you can't die with more money. You die with your experiences. You die with your memories. And the earlier on you can create that memory, the more dividends it'll pay throughout the entire life. So get those memories started earlier because, I went to Europe when I was 25. I spent like $3,500 and I had the most amazing experience ever. I've thought about it for many times and told the story. If I did that same experience when I was 85 and I paid $1 million to hire like a private yacht to take me to Europe and do the same thing, it wouldn't have the same effect. So the money has more value in the experience the younger that you do it. So get out there and start creating experiences. That's what it's all about for me.
Love it. And, I know you've had many very amazing mentors over the years. So I'm curious about the best advice you've ever gotten and who gave it to you.
Oh man, the best advice that I've ever gotten. Oh my God, that is a loaded question. I had a mentor who really changed my life. His mindset around family, getting more plugged in with my wife about what was going on with the business and actually running decisions by her instead of, she always was like, you do your business. I don't want to hear it. And I was like, okay, I'll just kind of keep it separate. But he really taught me that, hey, you need to lean on her to make better business decisions and open up to her about things. And I always thought I didn't want to bother my wife with the business stuff, but that has allowed us to grow a lot closer together. And she's really helped me see things in business that I don't think I'd be able to see for myself. So that's something that has come across my mind in the last year and a half.
Great advice, because 9 chances out of 10 is probably even better than that. Your wife's smarter than you anyway. I know my wife is smarter than me. So having that outside perspective is invaluable. And also, hear me out. I'm the old guy here, right? Having your wife buy into what you're doing is so incredibly important. And it's also edifying, so that when the bumps in the road do come, you can sit down and have those talks. And in a lot of cases, I find my wife just talking me down a little bit, right? It's going to be fine. We've seen this before. It's all good, right? And so having that partner in life is really important. And that's sage advice. So I also think that my own experience, I've learned more from the mistakes I've made than from the successes I've had. And so, I'm curious about, like, as you look back on the last, 10 plus years of your journey here in the real estate world, what's a decision that you look back on and go, man, I should have seen that. I would love to have that decision back. Like, what's a mistake that you've made along the way that you'd like to revisit? Not relive, but revisit.
Yeah, we've done a lot with strategic partners. So these aren't people that are equity owners in our business, but we might have done like joint venture agreements or something where that partner, they don't own equity, but they're a big part of the success of the project. And I did not do a good job of vetting them better, vetting their background, vetting their skill set, making sure that they were the right fit. I got so tied up into what I was doing and how busy I was. I did not give the weight of that decision the weight that I should have given it. And as a result, that wasn't a great partner. And, the deals don't work out for whatever reason. And then now you got a deal that you got to go fix yourself. And so that, I'd say, really vetting the strategic partners in your business and in your life.
Yeah. Really, really good advice. So I'm also curious about how you take it, a leader like yourself. I mean, you've got your business and I know for a fact that you're big on sharpening the saw, as they say. So I'm curious about, the book on your nightstand, virtual or otherwise. Like, how do you take in information, and what books and authors and creators are you paying attention to these days?
It's got to be something that really catches my attention. That's the funny thing. I used to read just for the sake of reading. I can't do that anymore. I got to be into what I'm reading. So I tend to really enjoy specific topics and kind of move on from one to a next. And so the topic that I've really been obsessed with right now, and bear with me, is centered around spiritual growth and meditation. Now, I'm not going to get all religious on you, right? That's not what this is. Believe it or not, spirituality has a lot to do with loving yourself. What's the relationship with yourself, right? That's how I really see spirituality. When you start looking at it through that lens, what's your relationship with yourself? It becomes a little bit more to stomachs. People think spirituality, what religion is he going to say? I'm not talking about that at all. So there's somebody that really opened up my eyes to all of this, and his name's Michael Singer. For the life of me, could not meditate for every time I tried it. I grew up obsessed with self-help stuff. So I've read like all Tim Ferriss's stuff, and like you read all this self-help, and meditation comes up time and time again. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to do it. Never could do it. I just couldn't sit still and do it. But Michael Singer changed my entire perception of it. And so the first time in my life, a few months ago, I actually started to be able to meditate. And the way he framed it was sitting there, and at first, just being aware of all the thoughts that come into your head. And I was like, I can do that. And so you're sitting there with your eye closed, you're controlling your breathing, you're trying to be aware how you feel. And then you go, holy cow, there is this voice in my head that won't shut up. It is constantly talking to me. And when you just sit there and try to think about nothing, but you're being aware of all the thoughts that are going through your head, you're like, oh my God, it literally is another voice out there that like you don't control. And so that's your mind, that's your brain. And what you learn is that you are not your thoughts. You're observing your thoughts. And so this is I'm going to get all pseudoscience-y on you right here, but this is your awareness, right? That's who you really are. You're the consciousness, you're the awareness that's observing your thoughts. So once you learn how to do this, now it becomes so much easier to have a relationship with yourself, because you can see how you're talking to yourself throughout the day. You might catch something. And so our consciousness, that awareness that I was telling you about, experiences the world in three different ways. Number one is we see the world, we take it in, it goes to our brain. The second way is we have a thought about it. And then based on what we're thinking, it sends messages to the heart, and the heart creates emotions around it. So if you can be a lot more aware of the thoughts that are getting triggered by what you see and hear in reality, you can control your emotions, aka this is where I think a lot of the business leaders that I hear about in like, Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of the Titans, they talk about meditation. Because if you can help control or just be aware, bring awareness to the thoughts you're having, you can prevent those thoughts from having the stress, the anxiety, or whatever negative emotions might be ruling your life, right? You don't let those emotions get to you don't let the thoughts get to your heart. And so that is how I've tied meditation into spirituality and like managing the relationship with myself. Because what a lot of people might realize is, if that voice that I'm listening to inside my head were another person on the outside, I probably wouldn't be friends with them. In fact,
I'd
they
stop
might be
spending
an
time with
enemy.
them. Yeah. So true.
So
So true. That's profound. So Michael Singer.
Michael Singer, so he wrote a book called The Surrender Experiment. And that's his story about him going through life and surrendering to the world and just saying, I'm going to let life happen. I'm not going to get stressed. I'm just going to go with the flow. And it's a freaking cool story. I highly recommend everyone go. It's a great listen. And then if you want to know like how he practiced surrendering, you can go get his book. My gosh, it is eluding me right now.
That's
on the
okay. We'll
spot,
look it
but
up.
he's got another book. Go
We'll
look it up.
and I'll
And
make
the
sure it's
the Untethered Soul. There you go. The Untethered Soul.
Okay. Got it. Excellent. All right, man. So 5. So how do you define success in your own life?
Body being balance in business and how I'm doing in those 4 categories. So body's always going to come number 1. How healthy am I? What's my diet? Am I getting enough sleep? I'm probably a 10 out of 10. I make little tweaks here and there, but I'm in extremely good shape. I'm like a biohacking junkie. I do green smoothies every single day. I measure my sleep. I get my blood work done every single year for performance, not for health. Performance, and they're 2 different things to get your blood work done for.
Indeed.
So I'm 10 out of 10 there. Body being, so this was probably where I was struggling the most because I'd never been really spiritual and wanted to work on the relationship with myself. Like, what is that voice telling me about myself in my head? So I kind of covered that a little bit. I measure that. Balance is the relationships that I have. So I'm doing pretty good here. My annual trips with my loved ones, time with my family. I'm off work every day, 5:30, no matter what. And then, the last one's business. And, business is pretty easy. It's not just about the amount of money, but are you having fun while doing business? Somebody asked me that question years ago, and it slapped me in the face because I was like, I'm not having fun right now. I need to change something. So body being balance in business, sitting down, having an honest conversation with yourself in those 4 categories and how you're doing.
Wonderful. Yeah, I had a mentor. I had a similar experience. A mentor asked me, I had a consulting firm back in my technology days, and he's like, is this fun for you? I'm like, no, it's not fun. So it was time to, sell out to my partners and go find something else to do. And I did. So it's an interesting question to ask yourself though, or have someone ask you, because it's so important, it reminds me of an axiom that I've yet to meet or hear of somebody on their deathbed who wish they worked more, right? That's never on the list. Anyway, so when you're not talking about real estate, I know you mentioned travel and spending the time with your loved ones. What else do you like to do for fun?
Yeah. So I used to travel 6 weeks a year, until I had a kid, so I've got a 16-month-old.
Yeah.
And I got another one due in July. So the travel thing
congrats.
has been kind of tough. Yeah. No,
Best thing
so
you'll ever
I
do,
had
man.
a kid. And so right now, dude, I like hanging out with my family on the weekend, which is crazy. We can't travel a whole bunch, but just literally just teaching him and getting to see him experience the world. Like I can literally just sit there and just watch my kid and and have fun with him. So it's a weird answer, but that's what I spend a lot of my time.
Not a weird answer
I'm a
at all.
steak junkie too.
Yeah.
I get my steaks imported from Japan and Australia, and I like to say, hey, I'm cooking steak tonight. And everyone's like, ooh, like Brandon's cooking, everyone wants to come over. So I'm a steak enthusiast big time. So I do that as well.
Excellent. Yeah, it's interesting. I have an uncle who he and his wife decided not to have kids over back in their day, and it's always he owns cars and he restores cars and he's a boater and all these different hobbies, and he's like, "What's your hobby?" And I said, "You see those 2 little girls running around in your backyard? Those are my hobbies. That's what I do." And it's the single greatest thing you can ever do is be a dad.
Agree.
So Brandon, if somebody wants to learn more about you or your business, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, there's 2 people that we serve. The first are those that want to learn how to do what we do, and the second are investors that want to invest in stuff like this. So for those that want to learn land development, if you're a builder trying to scale the number of homes that you're building, if you are maybe a land flipper and you're ready to go from subdivides to doing some bigger stuff, or you just want to get into development, you can go to learnlanddevelopment.com. So there's a free course, Land Development 101. You can go take it, grab it. It's like 8 hours of content. I got interviews with civil engineers, private equity groups, how to raise capital for your deal. Like it's a ton of content.
Amazing.
It's designed to help you get started. So it's free. If you like the idea of being a part of a community of people that are doing these land development deals, and you like the idea of somebody holding your hand through your first deal so you don't have to fumble around and figure it out, there's a video on that website. You can watch it. Again, go to learnlanddevelopment.com. And if you want to book a call to see if you are a fit for the community, there's a little request invitation button there. So that's one. The second, if you're an investor and you like the idea of investing in pre-sold land deals to big national builders, if you want to add that to your portfolio and get passive income from it, so you can go to hbgcapital.net/waitlist. That's pronounced Harry Bob Gary, hbgcapital.net/waitlist. That video explains our entire investment strategy, and you can book a call to learn more. If you want a free ebook, just go to hbgcapital.net. That's it. You can grab our freebie book, 100 Questions Business Owners Ask Before Investing. And if you like our content, we've got a YouTube channel. You can go check it out. And we've got our own podcast, Recession Resistant Real Estate Radio.
Excellent. Yeah. And I'm a avid listener and obviously an avid follower. So Brandon, it's good to see you, my friend. Congratulations on the mastermind, on HPG and your pivot into land development and everything else. And obviously congratulations on the coming of your second child. I didn't know that. That's great. Good for you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
This has been the Real Estate Underground. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps us grow. Until next time, Undergrounders, remember your real estate journey begins with a simple step forward. Now get to it. Bye for now.